What's up, y'all? You're listening to the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined always by Robert Cessna of the Eagle. Cease, A&M found a way to beat Bowling Green last Saturday, and now they get to go play a game that seems to give everybody a heart attack on each side of the field each year. A&M's playing Arkansas up at Arlington for the last time of the Southwest Classic.
Yeah, without a doubt. A lot of times I go into these games at first thinking that one team was going to win handily. Usually at the start it was Petrino, which he did it when he was at Arkansas. Then, they started being close, and they've been close ever since, really, except for maybe one game. And say what you will, it is a rivalry. So I expect this one to be close. It opened at 5.5. It's been at 3.5. Just something about when A&M and Arkansas play, I feel the underdog plays up to the other team's level.
Well, it's certainly shaping up to be another close one. Arkansas kind of struggled on the road against Auburn last week. Auburn's a tough place to play. I don't care what anybody says, what Auburn's doing right now. Winning in Jordan-Hare Stadium is not always easy. A&M knows that very well from the last time they were there. But, for Arkansas, they played Oklahoma State really well. They probably should have won that game. And last week, that defense really turned it up. They got, 5 turnovers against Auburn? And, I guess Hugh Freeze can say they'll win the game the other 9 times they play, but Arkansas won the one that mattered.
Yeah, when you look at it, 2 road games, and they should have beat Oklahoma State 634 total yards, something like that. You lose a ball game, pretty strange. You have 5 turnovers, you win. But the bottom line is they did enough that they almost won 2 road games. And if Arkansas is 4-0 right now, they're in the top 25. They might even be ahead of A&M. So say what you will. I think it's a big game for both. When you look at what Arkansas's got coming up, they've got like Georgia, I think it is, or Alabama, one of them. They got to play Texas, Tennessee. I think it's Tennessee too. They have a very tougher schedule than A&M. So if you're Arkansas, this is a game they almost have to win.
Well, they've certainly got some pieces to make it happen. Mike Elko today on the SEC teleconference, he talked about their front 7 being very experienced. They've still got Landon Jackson. Feels like that guy's as old as I am. And then on offense, Taylon Green's really taken off for them at quarterback, dual threat guy. And he's got a couple good pieces around him. Jaquindon Jackson, who a lot of people might remember as the quarterback from Duncanville. He had the Hail Mary against North Shore in the state championship game. Andrew Armstrong has been really good at receiver for them. And then Isaiah Satania, he was committed to A&M at one point. And I'm sure, as always, Arkansas's probably got a good tight end if I had to bet.
Here's the deal is, and we didn't get to see it last year, those of us that covered A&M or even the fans, because Bobby Petrino didn't have full autonomy with the offense. But if Petrino finds your weakness, he's going to keep going back to it. And unfortunately, I think so far this year we've seen A&M's defense probably has a few kinks here and there. You want to stay away from the D-line. But I'll be interested to see how Petrino attacks, and whether it's the running back, just run right at them, bootlegs by the quarterbacks, throw it as far as you can, and have maximum protection. I'll be interested to see how he attacks that Mike Elko defense / Jay Bateman.
Well, on the A&M side, definitely still some question marks at quarterback. First of all, now that you've had a few days to digest it, what did you think of Marcel Reed's following act after everybody wanted to coronate him after the win against Florida?
Yeah, I kind of said Cessna, whoa, because, you and I talked, there was about 4 swing passes that he should have completed that he didn't. There was guys open. And sometimes when you are the guy, it's a lot more pressure. And suddenly, I don't think Bowling Green's a great team, but I think Bowling Green is a decent team. And they made him work a little bit more. And I'm thinking Arkansas is going to do the same thing. So once again, I'm not sold that maybe there's a reason Reed wasn't starting and Wegman was. And then I got to give him a pass, though, because we talked about the offensive line being a thing in motion. I thought A&M would have run the ball better than what they did against Bowling Green. The final numbers were okay, but I thought they would dominate considering how bad Bowling Green was against Fordham and A&M defending the run. So how much is that offensive line? And if A&M's got a kink in the offensive line, so to speak, Arkansas is going to expose that because you just mentioned their front seven's pretty good. So I think this is a really good game to see how good Marcel Reed is. This is a rivalry game. This is a bigger game. Florida, he didn't know he was starting. Florida's horrible. Comes home, you get the benefit of being home. This is a road game for both because when you get behind, the other team's going to make a lot more noise. So I'm really looking forward to this game.
Well, of course, this is all predicated on the fact that Connor Wegman is still questionable for this game. Elko said on today's SEC teleconference that, he's been taking reps to the side, which kind of implies he has not been full go. We, of course, will get the SEC's mandatory availability report tonight. I would expect Wegman to be classified as available. He said after the game Saturday they didn't want to give him the shot, right? And so reading between the lines, it seemed as if, this is just my opinion, it seemed as if A&M felt they could win the game against Bowling Green without having Wegman as an emergency option. I'm guessing they're going to see how he feels throughout the week, and if he's good enough to be available, they might give him the shot against Arkansas and have him suited up in case something goes sideways. But it definitely seems like this is probably going to be another Marcel Reed start, you would think. You talked about the offensive line. TJ Shanahan's going to be out this week. Didn't give a reason for the injury or an explanation on what the injury is. We did see him go down there in that second quarter. It looked like it was some kind of, maybe with his left leg or something they were dealing with. But, it sounds like Coley's going to start at center. And just from seeing how things have gone through preseason and during pregame warmups, it looks like Ashton Funk, maybe Cam Dewberry would be guys that would get some action at center if they had to go to another option. And, you mentioned the offensive line. They had a lot of moving pieces against Bowling Green, and it seems like if A&M can have their 5, they're actually a pretty decent unit so far.
Well, I think once again, as you go right off the bat, they lost in the boost. So they really had 7. So now they're probably down to like 4.5 that they really can count on. And that's why I'm looking forward to this game because suddenly I had a couple people email. Suddenly injuries is a problem with A&M. Naboo's gone. Wegman has been out. You look at all these things. Chappelle was the most starts anybody had on the team. He's gone. You look at all this, and when you're trying to see if your quarterback can manage through the trainers and the managers to get out on the field, I think I'm with you. I think this is Reed's game, and if he couldn't make it, I think they might put Henderson because I have serious doubts they'd put Wegman in unless he was a 100%. And just my gut reaction, what he's been doing, I don't think he'd be 100%.
No. Now, the thing I'm curious about Marcel, can he continue to protect the football? That is the one thing he's done really well. He has not thrown an interception. He has not put the ball on the ground when he scrambled. He holds the ball pretty tight when he runs. He's not like Johnny Manziel where he's all out here with his hands, right? And so, Arkansas, especially coming off a game where they got 5 turnovers and made a young quarterback look pretty foolish at times, can Marcel play with some savviness to his game and keep A&M from making those big mistakes? Because we know Arkansas likes to really throw a wrench in A&M's plans at times. It just seems like every year A&M does something kind of silly that keeps Arkansas in the game, and that's why these games are so razor thin.
And to be quite honest with you, in Arkansas, the way they lost that Oklahoma State game, and I know they had a gimme after that, but I thought, they go to Auburn and lose. They go into that game with 2 losses, one of them a league loss. They're probably going to be pretty down, but instead they went to Auburn. I don't care how they won that game. They've put Oklahoma State behind, and they can really put Oklahoma State behind if they beat A&M. And, let's be honest, Petrino and Sam Pittman are probably coaching for their lives. And when you do that, you get pretty intense, and we've seen it. You're right. I can think about all the boneheaded plays that A&M made against Arkansas and overcome them. They've only lost once out of the last 12, so they've made some boneheaded plays and found a way to win. But you're playing with fire when you do that.
For as many boneheaded plays as A&M's made against Arkansas, Arkansas has made just as many.
Well, true. That's why they're
11 out of 12.
1-11 because they do just enough to lose the Brett Bielema deal, so to speak, missing a field goal, running the clock down to win the game, and then you miss the field goal, for example. How about that? I mean, there's giving a kickoff return, so many things, but that's why it's a league game, a rivalry game. Yeah, Arkansas and A&M have history, and I think that plays into it.
Okay, since it is the last game at AT&T Stadium, let's take a little stroll down memory lane. And there's been so many crazy outcomes that have gone A&M's way. What, in your opinion, has been the craziest of them all?
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I have to look. I remember Mon having a couple of big runs. I thought Arkansas
was he out of bounds?
Was he out of bounds? I thought Arkansas was going to Arkansas was going to win that game, and in so many games I thought Arkansas would win, and A&M found a way. And a good one, even Elko mentioned when Donovan Wilson had the big interception out of nowhere that it looked like once again A&M was going to lose, but A&M found a way to win, and when you think about it, if you're a Nagy fan, you up there, those first couple times, Arkansas just laid it on A&M because Petrino had quarterbacks. They were far the superior team, and you're thinking like, many times does A&M have to come back here? 9 more times to get beat like this. But boy, you talk about turning, and then I have to laugh walking down the going out of the stadium, whatever, with sometimes with Arkansas riders, and they reflect their people they cover. They're bemoaning that Bob Holt would say, "Hey, I talked to so and so." He said he's tired of losing the Aggies. He's tired of giving money, and you can imagine if you're a big Arkansas donor. And Jerry Jones is one of them.
No bigger than Jerry.
How mad you're about the way A&M keeps winning those games. What's your favorite?
It's probably the 2022 game, the Oink Doink. Remember when?
Well, I'm just saying
when what was his name? Cam Little. He hits it off the top of the. And if it's not in the pro stadium and they got the extended goalposts. And not to mention, that was the same game where they had the backyard touchdown where Damani Richardson took the ball from the guy.
Took the ball away from him.
And he runs for the touchdown when KJ Jefferson.
Perfect example.
I mean, if that wasn't A&M-Arkansas in a nutshell.
And I always get so mad when coaches wait for a touchdown. They could have picked up more yards. And they had the play where Jefferson lost yards. He shouldn't have. It was a stupid call.
They were going to go up 21-7.
Exactly.
And they ended up losing 23-21. Seems like A&M always ends up with some big, crazy touchdown, whether it was Josh Reynolds catching a couple of long passes from Kenny Hill or Kyle Allen, or you mentioned Christian Kirk returning the kickoff when A&M had gotten down. I don't know how Arkansas does it. They always seem to find a way to lose.
Well, A&M's had some of those cases against other people, which they can relate to at times. You think about Alabama, some of those games are a little lopsided, but they wouldn't have been if A&M makes one or two plays.
Like last year
down there, when they one play and they call a boneheaded play, that's in reverse. That's why you got to ride this. When you're finding a way to beat a team, the last thing you want them to do is come out of it. And of course, when A&M lost a few years ago, here comes Arkansas. But no, A&M got back on it, back on the winning track. So I'm just interested to see a lot of things. The health, like you said, number one, what's Reed going to look like in his third start? I think that's number one.
Well, Cease, we'll leave with this. What do you think a win over Arkansas would do for A&M moving into the second month of the season?
I just, I'm going to write a column about this. I've thought a lot about it in the last few days. It's such a huge game for A&M because if you win this game, you got a lot of momentum. You're coming home to play a Missouri team that's ranked high, but I don't think is that good.
They might be in the top 10.
Well, they're 10 or 11, and they're not playing this week, I don't think.
They're off.
They're off. They're just not that good. But if A&M comes in riding a 4-game winning streak, I don't care what you say, long as you win. But if you lose, then it's, you got all these question marks. You got to go to South Carolina. You got to go to Auburn, all these things. I think there's not anybody – seriously, they can't beat if they win with the Arkansas game. But if you lose the Arkansas game, there's no way you're going to win all those games because you're sitting at 3-2 and you've had probably laid a couple eggs, so to speak. But I just, and they say college football's every week. That's what I love about it. This is not the season, but this is a huge game to see what happens next week.
Well, we'll be there Saturday afternoon in Arlington, so be sure to check theeagle.com for all of our coverage from the game and theeagle.com leading up to the game. You got to read that spicy column that Cease's cooked
And you got to
up.
be ready for Alex's volleyball coverage of Texas. It's a big
Oh
weekend.
my gosh, it is a big weekend. A&M's playing Texas twice. You got volleyball on Friday.
There you go. You're right.
And soccer on Sunday. And oh my gosh, if A&M could win those two games,
Ooh.
I mean, you talk about a momentum boost. I got a story coming Friday about how Jamie Morrison's really been building this volleyball team,
Yes,
and they got a key measuring stick on Friday because Texas has been the cream of the crop the last couple years. A&M hadn't beaten them in almost 15 years on the volleyball court. So
Wow.
Which, let's be honest, it's not too surprising. Texas has been really good. A&M has at times played good volleyball, but has been very inconsistent, and now they're really starting to take some steps forward. Can the Aggies put up a good fight and pull up an offset over the Longhorns? And then on the soccer pitch, man, G. Guerreri's team could use a huge win over the Longhorns. That would really go a long way to giving them some boost in conference play. They're having a hard time finding the back of the net. If they can come away with a couple of big goals over in Austin, they might be a fun bus ride home for them. So,
Okay.
all right, hey, we'll see you next week on the My Aggie Nation podcast.